Bishul Akum, essentially, so as we were just discussing, so the rabbis were concerned with two things. One is less that when you come to eat the food that's cooked by a non-Jew, we don't want you to become too cushy with the non-Jew. You might come to marry, and there is a second concern, and that is that the secondary concern we're afraid the non-Jew might slip in some sort of non-kosher ingredients. We said it was alluded to in our opening sources that perhaps there's more of a kula by Pasach because bread you can see what's in it. It's hard to really add some sort of non-kosher agent. It would be more nikar, more discernible what's in there. Essentially, we have this rabbinic prohibition, but there are two major exceptions to the prohibition. I want to get to practically. My goal is to talk about sushi and coffee. To get to the practical things. So there are two exceptions. This categorical exceptions for Bishul Akum are it's not subject based on the Gemara in Avodah Zarah Lamed Ches and Av. It's not subject to anything which can be eaten raw, because if it can be eaten raw, therefore whatever they do in the cooking process is not deemed significant to consider it worth asering. And the second thing is it needs to be what we call ola ashuch malach. It needs to be something which could be served at a king's table, and not something which is like pauper's food. So practically, we have to go through these two categories and see how does this impact certain food items. So first of all, the Rambam in Hilchot in Machos Asuras Parak Zayin Halacha Tesvav says that the main reason is mishum chasnas. The main reason we're concerned is the intermarriage, not slipping the food into ingredient into your food, and therefore he says that we're really trying to prevent the non-Jew from having over for a meal. And the reason why we mention this categorical exception of things which are not olah shot malachim is because no one's going to invite you over and then just serve you sardines. That's not the meal we're afraid of. That's going to become buddy. If he invites you over and says, "Here's a banana and sardines," right? Here's an apple and a cup of tea. Those aren't things that we're so concerned of. We're really talking about something like a real chashuv dinner that might create some sort of relationship. So Rabbi Jack, in one of the footnotes, had a very interesting discussion. What does it mean olah shofim malachim? So there are two different approaches in the Achronim. So the Chazon Ish felt it's a function of first a food that's not of poor quality, it's a good quality, and will be eaten by a very wealthy person. And the Chazon Ish basically said that apparently during his days the king of England would eat sardines, and therefore if a king would eat this food item, then it is olah shofim malachim. It's a function of is this considered like a food that even a king would eat. But the implication of the Chazon Ish, and that's a chumrah of the Chazon Ish, that means that sardines would be subject to Bishul Akum, is that we're talking about, it's subjected to the individual king. Rav Soloveitchik had a different approach. Rav Soloveitchik said, no, we're not talking about what the individual king does for breakfast because he really likes sardines. We're talking about would it be served at a state dinner? Would this be something that they'd serve at a state dinner? Where the Rav's definition of olah shofim malachim is much more permissive, because anything which would not be served at a state dinner then would not be served to Bishul Akum. So that would categorically, that's why one of the footnotes said the Darchei asked the White House official chef, would they ever serve potato chips at a state dinner? Would they ever serve anything canned foods at a state dinner? And the chef reported back that we would never ever serve anything out of a can at a state dinner, and therefore, according to the Rav's definition of olah shofim malachim, any canned foods would not be subject to Bishul Akum. And I did see somewhere, I think maybe the Darchei CRC, that it could be that if whatever the canned food item is cooked before being canned, again, I'm not sure what an example is, if some canned foods are cooked and then they're preserved in a can, it could be that they are subject to it because at first they were cooked, initially. But there is what to rely on, that this notion that canned foods are for the most part categorically not subject to Bishul Akum. And the big area where this became a big brouhaha, big uproar was about tuna fish. I'm not an expert in tuna. I didn't specifically focus my attention to tuna fish so much this time, but I remember in the past looking into it that tuna is steamed. The process of tuna, they catch the tuna, and I think the steaming needs to be done they do the steaming very quickly after it's caught in factories, and so the question is that steaming a problem of Bishul Akum? So there was a big shiloh whether or not you could have kosher tuna because of the steaming. And for years and years, my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that the hechsherim were makel on tuna because of twofold. Number one is that steaming may not be considered actual actual cooking. Secondly, this is actually might not be, but Allah Shamalam, tuna actually is a food item that may actually be served at a king's banquet, but that's fresh tuna. This is what I'm about. Canned tuna. Canned tuna also would not be served anything from a can, so canned tuna again wouldn't be subject to the prohibition. Another factor which is raised by tuna though is this being a factory. And maybe the whole prohibition of Mishum Chassid become buddy. We're afraid of the guy on your block that you walk your dogs together with every day. That's the little. Maybe another sniff lahaka, another reason to be more mako by the factories. You have no relationship to the guy out in Washington State in the fishery, in the bumblebee factory out there, and therefore there might be more to be mako. So my understanding is that people were always mako on the Bishul Akum Shiloh by tuna cans for all these various reasons. A, that it's canned, B, that it's just steamed, and C, that it's a factory worker and there's no way to get, and therefore we don't have to be concerned for the Bishul Akum. Now, I did check in the Darchei website. You still need to have the hechsher. What's the hechsher? It means that they're not involved necessarily in the cooking, the steaming of the fish, but they start making sure the utensils are not being used with other non-kosher. So my understanding, I could be wrong, is that the hechsher on bumblebee tuna is not taking into effect the Bishul Akum. We're lenient regarding Bishul Akum. They're really just checking the factors, making sure there's no other traced fish mixed into the tuna. Is that correct?
At one time, there was a problem with dolphins.
Is that
the way they caught tuna? Sometimes they get remnants of dolphins inside the tuna.
The problem is the netting process would get dolphins. The dolphins are a different kind of meat. I thought they'd have to kill the dolphins. I mean, the dolphins were killed by this
Because they would take all the tuna with the dolphins and throw them in a ship and
lump it together.
Lump it together.
There's nothing wrong with putting a whole carcass of the dolphin, because you're going to basically throw the dolphin away and throw the skin of the tuna away.
I assume the dolphins are not kosher.
Dolphins are not kosher.
Don't have scales.
Dolphins are not kosher.
Right. But still, I mean, just because one touches the other.
No, touching is fine. My understanding is, again, that what the hechsher is not about the Bishul Akum, the hechsher to make sure that there's no dolphin.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my understanding.
That was the problem. This goes back many years ago.
Right. Okay.
Now
So
they don't have a problem.
that's tuna fish. The other thing which really is important for this whole discussion is the issue of sushi. We had sushi today. Because the secondary exception was anything which can be eaten raw, then the cooking is not significant. So there's a big discussion. What's happened now that we eat, many people eat raw fish. Because you eat raw fish, so therefore does that categorically change the whole question about cooking fish, cooking meat, because many people even eat raw meat. So in the 50s or 60s, when sushi was just becoming somewhat done in America and Western countries, so the answer was it's still really meal to people who are eating this stuff. The question is today, where it's becoming more and more widespread, does that change? So if you saw, it was the Panini Halacha, Rav Elazar basically said, there's no way that categorically, because people now eat raw fish or even something raw meat, that categorically fish and meat are now not subject to Bishul Akum. No. Fish and meat categorically are subject to Bishul Akum. But what Rav Melamed did say was that the sushi itself would not be subject to Bishul Akum, which, by the way, opens up a big Pandora's box. Does that mean that if the sushi itself, does that mean you could go into a non-kosher sushi place and order sushi without any hechsher because it's not subject to Bishul Akum? You don't need to have a Jew involved in the process. So I was looking at this right before Marav tonight. So you have a few factors you need to be careful of. Number one is there are only certain fish that you can identify 100% to know what it is. Salmon is the classic example. If it's pink, it has certain characteristics in color. You know what it is. So salmon would be the one thing. When we're having a discussion, it would only be about salmon. If it's some other color thing, you can't know for sure what you're eating without seeing the scales, and therefore it would not be okay. But there is what to talk about. In fact, Rav Melamed said that the rice is tafel to the fish, and that for the rice, even with a steam cooker, might not even be a problem. So the Darchei basically said for Maris Ayin issues, it's a terrible idea. He did also say that there are some people some stores that put some sort of like a shrimp seasoning on their rice or something. This is what the Darchei said. There could be that there's other shrimps that are going into the sushi that we're not aware of. he said you can never know if you're going into a non-kosher sushi store. So I'm not recommending it at all. But just from a halachic analysis, in theory, if you knew your salmon is salmon, and what we're saying about the rice being tafel to the salmon can be eaten raw. In theory, I could hear someone eating. It'd be the lesser of crimes done, eating a salmon sushi in a sushi store, but it's not recommended. In fact, in the kosher stores, they have the Jew turn on the pressure cooker, right? So the rice is made on one of these pressure cookers. So the Jew will do, like the Ashkenazim are making, that as long as you turn on the heat source, that's enough. So in order to avoid the Bishul Akum child, the Jew, I assume Nissan, I can ask him what Nissan does, but I assume what he turns on the pressure cooker, that he's involved somewhat in the cooking of the rice. Yeah.
The David's fish, I don't know, a long time ago.
Tina, right?
Tina told me that there's a problem with the seaweed, that sometimes there are little microscopic shrimp embedded in the seaweed.
Maybe that's what they're talking. There was something about the shrimp, maybe in the. I thought it was in the rice. Look, maybe it was the seaweed. That's the nori they call it.
The nori is the type of seaweed.
The seaweed that they use.
Yeah.
So there's something about shrimp that we should be concerned about. Plus Mars. Yeah.
There's apparently an active infestation in the current seaweed, not the nori that goes around it, but the actual seaweed. Neeson was telling me that apparently he can't get it now because there's no one that'll give it a hechsher because the ones coming from Japan have too many bugs in them nowadays.
Interesting.
So not the ones that you see there, but he said
this inner layer you're saying.
So that one's fine, but he said the actual non, I don't know, whatever they do to that. So you actually get regular seaweed. Apparently, it's currently infested. Or that was last week.
This is a really interesting shot. It could be that the lesser of your evils. Again, I'm not trying to encourage anyone to do this, but the lesser of evils would be buying salmon sushi if you could avoid this, this seaweed.
A friend of mine who's a very religious woman basically told me she'll eat sushi in the place because in the high quality sushi places, the chef would never cook anything but rice in the rice cooker.
And therefore, you have a knowledge of just rice. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to.
Again, I'm not. I'm not encouraging this by any stretch. You should only go to a proper restaurant, a proper ashkafah. But I'm saying from an intellectual standpoint, the lesser of issues with sushi itself. The other thing I want to talk about is coffee, because this is a big issue with those of us who go to Starbucks, myself included, to get a plain coffee or an iced coffee. Setting aside all the flavors and all the other stuff that I'm just not knowledgeable enough, and I always tell people look at kosherstarbucks.com, where you have to look into this stuff. But basically, what about the Bishul Akum? That's the big shiloh that no one really talks about. Is how can I go into Starbucks besides the ham that's sitting there in the container? There's a non-Jewish person who is making me my coffee. So this was discussed in this sugya, and basically the poskim say that because the hot water can be eaten raw. Of course, you can have cold water. So therefore, it is the water is in the category of kolshu nachal mishum chai. It can be eaten raw, and therefore the coffee, the roast coffee, even though the beans need to be cooked, they are tafel to the water. And there are Hashofim quoted this in the sources. Gave a proof by the fact that you make a shahakol on the coffee. You don't make a hadama for the coffee beans. Or he gave another example by beer. You don't make a mizonos, even though there are hops in the beer. You make a shahakol. So he said clearly the hops or the coffee beans become tafel to the water, and therefore most of the poskim say that coffee is not subject to Bishul Akum because the coffee beans are secondary to the water, the liquid. However, he did quote, I think it was a Shaver Levi quotes the Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer felt that was only if it completely dissolves into the water. But if there's some sort of coffee bean residue, maybe it was the opposite. I should double check. Do you remember what the Chassam Sofer said? There was a chumrah of the Chassam Sofer which was not that way. Do you remember the Chassam Sofer?
Didn't get that far yet.
Bishul Akum. He says, Chassam Sofer writes that coffee is permitted when prepared by a Gentile only when the coffee beans do not dissolve in the water. Right.
Only when the coffee beans do
not dissolve.
Why?
The Shaver Levi says that Chassam Sofer includes that concerning instant coffee, where it does dissolve, Chassam Sofer would be machmer. I think what he's saying is because when it does not dissolve, then it is maybe tafel. Maybe where it all becomes one entity. Alright, he didn't call the actual Sam Sofer, just as in English calling the Shevet Levi.
Instant coffee is just regular coffee.
What?
Instant coffee is just regular coffee. That was
That was
freeze dried.
previously cooked and then freeze
Yeah,
Right.
it's just freeze dried
What about
coffee.
there are some coffees? I'm told. I think Starbucks. You know, the instant
Yeah.
Starbucks. You have to use on Shabbos. You have to use kosheni.
There you go.
No, it's normally instant coffee. I take your coffee, you stick it under your.
So instant coffee, I thought we should use
right.
a klish shlishi.
What?
Don't you
Ideally.
put the water in first and then the coffee when you make
Ideally,
coffee?
well, he's saying, yeah. Ideally, what I do is I usually make it a klish shlishi. So I take my urn, I pour it into my first cup, and I take one cup, I pour it into the second cup. Because the Gemara says a klish shlishi in mabashal. This is a Hilchot Shabbos shir.
But you're not cooking instant coffee, you're just dissolving.
But the
Right.
instant coffee, I guess
Right.
maybe.
But
maybe
right, instant
the
coffee.
rub
But
is-
there are some. I know, for example, I was told that the Starbucks, you know, those thin packets,
the via.
the via, right? That you have to use a koshlishi.
Again, the Gemara says klishi she'ein mavasha. There's a shaila of bishul achar bishul, and maybe even though yes, it was cooked in the process, maybe there's new bishul because it's a dry subject. Such. I typically tell people use a klishi. I think of Salvechik was known to tell people they can even use a klishi, but I've always been
Well,
told,
I just
Somebody
thought that the coffee, you take the water, you put the water in first,
right?
and then the coffee, as opposed to tea, where you use a klish or use.
Oh, you
sense
say
or
you
whatever.
distinguish between coffee and tea?
Just put.
I do everything in a klish
with
shlishi.
tea.
She described what you said about Rav Salvation.
I think Rav Salvechik was known to have this head to that he would say klishi and he would find because coffee was already previously cooked as opposed to the tea bag. Is that what you're referring to?
The way I do tea with a klish is we take the hot water from the urn, we put it in one place, then we pour it into the cup.
Correct.
Then we put the tea bag
Correct.
into the cup, so that's 1, 2, 3.
Correct.
With coffee, instant coffee,
just-
I take hot water in a cup, and then I pour the instant coffee, not a bag, that's
I
something
understand.
else, and just put the instant inside the hot water.
My guess is what you're doing is basically distinguishing between coffee and tea because coffee was previously cooked in the
Right.
listen to what he's saying, it was cooked and then free whatever the process is. But anyway, that's it. Well, let's put that on the side for now. But basically, my understanding is that most of the olam is makel when it comes to coffee. In fact, it's very interesting. Ravadi Yosef in one of the shitas says, if you aren't sure what the halacha is, this is a dangerous thing for me to quote. So maybe Ravadi Yosef says you don't know what the halacha is and it's a machlokas. Look at what the minhag olam is doing. Look what the minhag olam is doing. That kind of helps you know what's okay. And I have a very, very interesting line, because today you have people doing lots of interesting things that I would not necessarily recommend. Look at the minhag olam, but you see B'nai Torah in Starbucks. You see people who are learning in Starbucks. In Minneapolis, the Kolo guys, they all go to Starbucks. And so I think everyone is relying on the Meiko Shita that coffee is considered tafel to the water. And the water can be eaten raw, therefore it's not subject to Bishul Akum. Even though coffee is Ol Ashok Malachim. A king would drink coffee at his table just like a pauper would drink coffee at the table, but the olam is makel. So in terms of the Bishul Akum Shaila, I don't think you can go to Starbucks. I go to Starbucks, you can. The real Shaila in Starbucks has to do with the non-kosher food and the dishwashers and the cleaning process and that we can talk privately offline. But in general, I try to send people to kosherstarbucks.com to see what they have to say. Anyway, so hopefully we've at least touched upon, become more educated in terms of sushi, in terms of coffee, in terms of the realm of Bishul Akum, and next week we'll focus more on Pasach and other rabbinic prohibitions.
Yeah.
Good.